Welcome to our Coach's Corner with Coach Dave Wood, following Purdue's harrowing, I guess that would be the right word, 76-71 win over Illinois. It's kind of the morning after view of that. Lots to talk about because not only did Purdue, it had already clinched the undisputed title, but they will be now the number one seed and will face either Michigan or Rutgers. That's another whole interesting matchup as well. Like I said, lots to talk about today. Coach, when you look back at that game, the end result is the important thing. And yet Illinois really had an unbelievable comeback. They were down, I think, 22 at one time, if my ciphering is correct. But talk about that and just and then how Purdue's kind of from a psychological standpoint has to feel after at least getting the job done, having the celebration on court, and being able to move on to the Big Ten tournament.
Well, it's certainly a tale of two halves.
Yeah.
For sure, tale of two halves. I think it's the best half Purdue's played in the Big Ten season all year.
Yeah.
But as I've said many times, playing well and shooting well are two different things. And Purdue played well, but they shot really, really well in the first half. Made shots. Key part of the game was when Edie got his second foul. We've talked about fouls, but Purdue really built the lead after he went out.
Right.
Which was, I said to my wife at the time, this is going to be a big 5 minutes or whatever it was, with Edie out of the game with fouls, and Purdue played and shot extremely well, but they played defense extremely well in that time as well. But in the second half, it was Illinois got hot, frankly. Yeah. I'm not sure Purdue's defense was, after I went back and reviewed it, Purdue's defense wasn't quite as bad as I thought it might have been. Right. But Illinois got hot and started making shots, and Purdue's shooting from outside went the other way, 0 for 6 from three in the second half, and uncharacteristically missed a lot of relatively easy shots. Had 3 or 4 possessions at key points where Braden Smith had a steal and a breakaway that with no score and no foul.
But a great block, Terrence Shannon, man, that was even though he may have fouled him, but what an unbelievable play.
Wow. Exactly. I don't think Braden thought that he was going to get close to that. Neither did I, frankly.
Yeah.
We've talked about the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes of each half, and I thought Purdue dominated 3 of those 4. They dominated the first 5 minutes of the game. They dominated the last 5 minutes of the half. Illinois probably won the first 5 minutes of the second half, even though at 15 minutes, it was still a 20-point game.
Yes, you're right. That's correct.
But after all that, the key is that the last 3 minutes, minute and a half, Purdue really dominated. After Zach scored the go-ahead bucket, I thought Purdue's play from that point on was really, really, really outstanding.
All right,
coaches win that way.
Yeah, coaches have to be able to sleep at night. Matt Painter probably looks at that one and says, "Do you look at this as character building? This is a great test for the pressure of the tournaments that are to come, because Purdue had to come through the clutch. They didn't make shots, like you said, and when you go back and watch it, yeah, it's really hard to pinpoint. I mean, Illinois made some big plays." They also, if Matthew Meyer hits both of those free throws, might have been a different story as well down the stretch. My point is, do you look at it and say, man, that's just another good test that we being Purdue got through? Is that the way you have to look at it if you're Purdue?
I think so. Give Illinois credit. They are a very good team. I said in my notes, they may be the most talented team in the Big Ten, just strictly from a talent standpoint. Size, length, shot making, inside play. They may be the most talented team in the Big Ten. And so you felt like they were going to make a run. I don't know that I thought it was going to be that big a run, but give them some credit in that situation. And yet Purdue had enough to win in the end. And I think at the end of it all, you say, we won the Big Ten by 3 full games. And let's enjoy this. Let's celebrate this. Let's enjoy this. Every team that wins a big tournament or wins a big league has a couple of situations where they face some adversity, and Purdue has a couple times failed when they faced that. This time again had a chance to fold, just like they did at Wisconsin, had a chance to fold. And I think this team has improved in that way, because these two games they won after facing some really, really big adversity late in the game. And I think that's a real, I'm sure Matt Painter will look at that as a big positive going into the Big Ten tournament and going into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. As I think Brad Underwood said in post-game last night, his post-game interview, not often that Zach Edey goes -10 in that wonderful plus-minus stat, which works really well for hockey, works kind of well for basketball. I mean, it's an interesting number, but Trey Kaufman-Renn was huge in the first half, and Purdue really gained the lead. You know, Fletcher Lawyer did not have a big game. He was offensively did hit a couple key free throws though, and that was important, but he was plus 24 I think in the game. My point is, what did he learn? Maybe with Zach Edey again, not quite as good, and boy, we're being picky here because the guy has been unbelievable all year, but it's just that little bit. Are you starting to see wear and tear there just because of a physical pounding that guy has taken, and he's missing some shots at the rim? How do you view that?
Oh, he's human. He had probably a little bit of a subpar game, but just like we talked about with Indiana, with Trace Jackson Davis against Purdue having a subpar game, not a bad game. And Zach Edey did not have a bad game last night, but I think it's a huge plus for him to be -10 and you beat a team the caliber of Illinois. I think that speaks to the things that Trey Kaufman-Renn did. It speaks to the things that Brandon Newman did. It speaks to the things that Braden Smith did in this game, among probably a couple others. I thought Caleb First didn't score much, but he gave him some really good minutes. And I think as a team, we from the outside, you look at that and think, okay, Purdue just won a big game, and their best player when they had the big run was on the bench. I think that's a good thing for Purdue, knowing that they can play well without Zach Edey on the floor sometimes. Yeah.
And you know what? The points in the first half count the same as the second half, do they not? I mean, you can't get two. I mean, I understand you had a 22-point lead and it evaporated to 0. I get all that. But you're right. And I think you mentioned in your notes, the fact that Purdue got that lead, it may, who knows, it may have caused Illinois to be just slightly out of gas at the very end, and may have been the difference. So I went back and watched Luke Goody hit that 3. I mean, it was like that was like the Caitlin Clark shot for Iowa against IU. I mean, it's crazy, but again,
that was very contested.
Very contested. Yeah, first really, and again, we're talking about the shot. I think it was Illinois' last basket, but my point is it cut the lead from 6-3 in the last minute of the game. Though it made you nervous if you're a Purdue fan at that point when he hits that shot. But my point is, First really does defend him extremely well, dangerously close. You have to be really careful not to foul in that situation too. But it was just a. You watch Illinois, and you're right. Illinois just passes the eyeball test. They just do. And when they come in and do what they do, Purdue's last two opponents in Mackey Arena, Indiana and Illinois, are two of the teams that really are dangerous. They look the part. They just don't play the part every game. We get that, but that's what really makes that accomplishment of getting the job done important.
Yeah, and you look at those teams. And nobody's going to be shocked if they're in the final of the Big Ten tournament. Yeah. I'm not going to be shocked if either one of them's in the Sweet 16. Yeah. Or past that, because they do look the part, and when they play well, they are dangerous. They are very, very dangerous. So, that's a big win. It's a big win for a team that has had a little hiccup, but they all had hiccups. To win the Big Ten by 3 games is just an unbelievable accomplishment. And can we be honest for once and say that Purdue has one really, really good player.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of little better than
Compliment.
average players that play hard and play their roles and do little things well. And when you do that, I think you have to credit a coaching staff, and you have to give a lot of credit to players who have bought into their process. And I think that's a great thing. I think it's one of the best coaching jobs in America this year, because none of us, if we're being honest, saw this coming at all.
No doubt. I mean, that's the thing that, yeah, some people forget that, and I think you're absolutely right. We talked a little offline yesterday about Purdue substituting offense to defense in the second half. My untrained eye, to some extent, said, "Wait, did Purdue lose some continuity? Did that have anything to do with Purdue's struggle offensively?" I don't think you agree with that. And tell me what your thought is, because, and one other comment before I forget too, is that taking Edie off the court against the press makes some sense, because you really are playing 5-on-4 in some ways. So I'll let you talk and see what you have to say there.
A couple of things. One, the argument against going offense and defense, switching up, is that it hurts players in the flow of the game.
Yeah.
But the only way that works is for there to be stoppages in play. The whistle has to blow to make this in hockey. The whistle has to blow for you to make a substitution. And there was no flow in that game. People noticed the offense to defense because it happened so often, because there was no flow in the game. The whistle was blowing. There were fouls.
Yeah.
There were balls out of bounds. There was no flow, much flow at all, to that last 5 minutes of the game. It was 6 minutes, because I actually noted, I said to another coach sitting near me that Matt's going offense to defense with 6 minutes to go. But there's no flow. I get the argument, but there's no flow in the game, or nobody would have noticed that there were a number of substitutions. Taking Edie off the floor against the press. You know what I thought? I thought he also took Edie off the floor when Illinois needed a three. Yeah. When Purdue did a lot of switching, and when he's out on the floor against most of their players, that's a mismatch. Yeah. And Caleb First at 6'10" and Trey Kaufman-Renn at 6'9", that's big enough. They both have a little bit more mobility than Zach Edey when it comes to guarding outside. And I thought that was a really good move, frankly. Probably the bad move he made, and I know he probably wishes he hadn't done it, was not putting Edie in on the first free throw miss, because after Illinois got the rebound and got fouled, he immediately put Zach back in the game to get the rebound, because Purdue missed a block out there. But hey, coach this game and you make a whole bunch of mistakes. Everybody makes a whole bunch of mistakes. If I'm gonna fault the coach, that's the only time I'm gonna fault him in this game.
Yeah. You look at it, is so much of that in that game, and that was an adjustment. I mean, I think the taking Edie off the floor against the press is something they hadn't done much this year, to my knowledge, to my memory, but an adjustment that they made. All right, let's look at the landscape of the Big Ten. It's going to be fascinating. Purdue's going to, if Michigan beats Rutgers, and who knows, but Michigan's going to be desperate because they had a chance to win at Indiana late Sunday afternoon, did not do so. And they are at best on the bubble. They may be the second four out actually right now. So they would really behoove them to get to the championship of the Big Ten tournament somehow, some way. Talk about the landscape, what Purdue has to play for, what's important for Purdue to get out of the Big Ten tournament, but also look at that first matchup with Michigan and Rutgers, another team that's really reeling right now. Rutgers is reeling a lot more than Michigan is, actually. Talk about that.
Okay, I was going to say Rutgers is desperate also.
Yeah, they may be. Absolutely.
They are. They have an excellent resume until the last 2 or 3 weeks, where they've really struggled. They lost a player, and they've really struggled. but it's going to be a gauntlet. And I don't care who Purdue plays. Those teams are desperate. I think Purdue. Desperate isn't the word, but I think Purdue has to get to the final to keep their number one seed.
Yeah.
Frankly, there are four other teams that have played well and really played well down the stretch. I know. Gosh, I'm losing my train of thought. Who lost this week?
Alabama lost.
Alabama, thank you. Alabama. Yeah. I was thinking Tennessee. It's Alabama.
Houston almost lost yesterday to Memphis. Yeah,
correct. It's a gauntlet because, I think that Purdue would be heavily favored against those last four teams that they're probably not going to see.
Yeah.
And it being a one, but Michigan's capable of beating Purdue. Rutgers has already beaten Purdue. Purdue's going to have to play well. They're solidly in the tournament. They're going to be a 1 or 2, but everybody likes to be a 1. And I think they've got to get to the final game unless Houston falters in their conference tournament, unless Alabama falters in their conference tournament. I don't see Kansas faltering.
Kansas got beat yesterday by obviously a very good team as well. So I mean, there's just good teams everywhere you go. That's the point.
There are, and the Big Ten is certainly the parity. When you looked at yesterday, there were 8 or 9 teams at 11-8 in the league. Teams that had a chance to be 2 seeds or 9 seeds. There's a lot of parity in this league. And there's a lot of good parity in this league. It's going to be a gauntlet. I think it's great to get a double bye and get a week off at this point in time to rest a little bit and play a team that has had to play at least has got a game under their belt and got to come back the next day and do it again against a solid Purdue team. But it's going to be fun, and I think we're going to look at Purdue's performance against pressure, and we're going to look at their 3-point percentage to see if they have been successful. Because when Purdue shoots the ball well, like the first half yesterday, they are as tough and out as there is in the United States.
Yeah.
With Zach Edie inside, when they're shooting, and I think they have better shooters than they've shown all year. And if they get hot in this tournament, both these tournaments, I think they are going to be a very, very difficult out. So let's hope that Purdue shoots the ball well, but their defense is going to stand up. Their big man's going to stand up when they shoot it well. They're going to be exciting to watch.
Yeah. One last question. Certainly, if Purdue plays Rutgers, they're going to see pressure. May see some against Michigan, depending on that situation. And again, Purdue only had 11 turnovers, 7 in the second half. But like anybody, and I'm not, Braden Smith was phenomenal in the first half and a big reason why Purdue got ahead the way it did. I think he had 14 in the first half. But just talk about Purdue's, how they're handling that press. And Braden Smith in a couple of situations kind of retreats, it looks like there's 7 Illinois players on the court. There are almost 5 in the backcourt, so to speak. But any adjustments that need to be made? Did you see anything yesterday in the second half when they had a couple turnovers? One, they just kind of handed the ball to him, but then there was a couple times when Smith got himself trapped and lost the ball. How do you view that?
Well, Illinois' strategy I thought was interesting because they pressed them, sort of. They kind of made them walk it up, and all of a sudden they went at Smith after playing, 33 minutes without going after him, and I thought that caught Purdue by surprise, frankly, and they had a couple hiccups against that. It's a very effective way to press teams, to change up all of a sudden the pressure that you put on them. Purdue's got to attack a press. They've got to go forward. They've got some guys that are very tentative in the backcourt who have to, in my opinion, catch the ball and dribble it toward the basket. Pass it forward, dribble it toward the basket, get across the line, then get the ball to Braden Smith or David Jenkins and get into offense. I think they've been reluctant in some cases to do that. I think Ethan Morton's been reluctant. Caleb First yesterday on one possession. You know, he looked like a sixth grader. Coach doesn't want me to dribble the ball, and so I got to wait and give the ball up. Well, he can dribble, he can handle the ball well enough to get it across the line and you know, take it at people. And you got to be confident enough to do that. But I think they've got to attack the press by going forward more than they go backwards. And you know, at times that's been very effective, and at times that's been a problem. And you're right. If Rutgers wins that game, they're not going to wait. They're going to be in their press from the get-go, and Purdue's got to prove they can handle that.
Yeah, which they didn't well enough back on the 2nd of January, but it's been light years since then. It's been a great Big Ten season. I think it's the proverbial meme of get your box of popcorn. If you have the funds or time to get to the United Center, go do that. If not, get in front of the television, because I think every game starting on Wednesday night, it's at 6:30 Eastern time, I think, is when the first game is played. They're all going to be interesting. Look at Minnesota has played well down the stretch and is dangerous enough to beat somebody. I don't think they're dangerous enough to win 2 games, but my point is, even the bottom teams, Nebraska, obviously we've seen what they've done down the stretch, and winning at Iowa yesterday. Fascinating going to be to see how this all plays out. And I don't know, Purdue is the number 1 seed, maybe arguably is the favorite, but I take, and it's nothing against Purdue, I just take the field because there's just too many teams out there that can make this a very interesting weekend of basketball. So
you're right. There are going to be a lot of close games.
Yeah,
a lot of close games. I would be very surprised to see many 10, 12 point margins in this tournament. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, look at yesterday's game when you thought it was going to be a as Purdue fans call it, a stress-free game in Mackey Arena. No, it wasn't, because there were, like you always say, there's another team out there and they want to win. And Illinois, you have to give them credit yesterday for a great comeback and a really good win for Purdue to get the job done. All right, we will talk again probably maybe after Selection Sunday, depending on what happens in the tournament. I think we may wait and do that, have our next Coach's Corner next Monday or late Sunday evening, and get that handled, so that we will look forward to the NCAA tournament. Purdue is almost guaranteed to go to Columbus. In fact, they are. That's going to happen. Whether they go as a 1 or 2 seed, there are a lot of interesting scenarios in there. If I'm a 1 seed, I don't know that I want to see Kentucky in Columbus. I know we're manufacturing troubles right now when you do things like that, but take it one thing at a time. But if Purdue's a 2 seed, they will still be in Columbus. Maybe they end up playing Kentucky in that scenario too. So again, I'm trying not to get too deep in the weeds, but it's going to be fascinating next few weeks, and enjoy the ride. Coach, thanks so much for your time as always. It's great stuff, and we'll look forward to talking again probably when we know Purdue's destination heading into the NCAA tournament. So have a great week.
Fantastic. Thanks.